Hello, my name is Starlight. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'm reaching out to all of you beautiful souls out there. I hope you're getting out in nature like Starlight is. And what a beautiful day. Here I am. This is something that I just received recently. Just did my laundry day today. So it is a little cool out here, and that's why Starlight is wearing a sweater. But that is all right. I am out here and getting some beautiful air. And as you see, the beautiful ocean, Starlight does love the water, the ocean and stuff like that. So if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome. And you can find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight. And that is Kathy with a K Dingman. Plus, you can give this video a thumbs up. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. And don't forget, don't be afraid, don't be shy. Swing by and say hi to Starlight. And you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. Plus, you can also share my videos with your family or friends. Let me think. I heard of an animal the other day, and I'm like, oh my, a rhino. Yeah, actually, I seen a picture of a rhino. And yeah, you can share my videos with a rhino. And a dinosaur, why not? A dinosaur, and you can check out my playlist. Plus, you can find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. So today's video is about staying in the now. Like, Starlight's right in the now, right now, in the present, you know. And this is not always easy, and that is why, like, meditations are so important. Getting out, like where Starlight is, you know, meditations, getting out in nature. You know, listening to some beautiful music. There's different things, like meditation is good. Yoga is awesome to help you to stay in the present moment. And we all have a past, and Starlight struggled with this topic for a long time. And my family and I, we would always go back and forth, like, how am I going to heal my stuff from the past if I don't, you know, talk about it, you know, to figure out how to fix it, you know. And then other family members like, oh, you got to let go of the past, you know, stay in the now. But wait a minute, how am I gonna, there's things that happened back there, but how am I gonna heal from that? So I didn't know this. It's all right to visit the, you know, visit things in the past, but you don't want to stay there. And that really huge helped me out. And there's a lot of times, like, what it is and Starlight has dealt with this for a long time, is, you know, you could have stuff happening throughout your week, and where, you know, you could have a bad day yesterday or 3 days ago, and where you're not in the present moment and you're not in the now, where your brain, your Starlight, I mean, like, I wish I had my backpack on, because this is about how a lot of us can be. Is if I had a backpack, hang on, I'm gonna put my backpack on. Of course, ooh, you know, I got all, if this was really full of stuff, right? Full of, you know, it does have some weight in here, but this is about how a lot of people live day to day. Is I'll tell you what, have you ever seen, if I got like a picture on Canva, have you ever seen those men or women do this? They go hiking. Starlight has never done this. I would love to do this. Is they will carry their little tent. They have a little tent, their sleeping bags, all their stuff, all their gear, their stove or whatever, how they're gonna cook, you know, because now they got everything so small for camping, like for military style and stuff like that. And they got this big ass, you know, bag on their back, and they go out, and they'll park their car somewhere, get all their stuff and everything in their bag, and get their drinks and all this. It's a lot of weight. It is a lot of weight. But this is how a lot of people are, is that they're carrying all that weight every day with them. I was there. I have done this. carrying all the troubles and all the headaches and all the problems and all the stress. You know, it could be your whole lifetime that every day I was there. I was that chick long time ago before I met my mentor. Is every day I was, carrying all the burdens of my life, all the, man, I lived in the past. I wasn't living in the present. I was actually either in the past or fearing about the future. I wasn't in the present moment. I never heard of that. I talked to a guy today, and sometimes Starlight meets people, and I learn things about people all the time. And we were talking, and I said about staying in the present moment, staying in the now. And he goes, "Oh yeah, everybody knows that." No, they don't. No, they don't know that. I didn't know it in 2016 or 17. Of course, it wasn't right away when I met I'm going to take this off, because see, I'm taking the burdens off. I'm taking the stress, because it's not easy to carry all that weight every day with you, and, and this is, a lot of homeless people do this. I've seen this over and over again, and they could either be carrying a big old bag. I've seen a guy out where I was located. I was like, holy shit, this guy, I don't know what was in his bag. And then he was carrying his sleeping bag separately, but he had a big ass, strong made bag that had straps on it. That thing was, would pop out behind his head, and it was bulging. He had so much weight in that. And he would always go to the park. I seen him all the time in the park. And when I would see him come to the park, that bag was so huge and had so much weight that he wasn't even standing up straight. He was actually like this, and walking like that. He actually had so much weight, and I'm like, oh my. I would have my small bag that you just seen here. That's a small bag, but I've actually have had that where it's really loaded. If I go somewhere like on a hiking trip, I'll have my water in there, my blanket in there, my lunch in there, and other things in there. And I'll have that on my back. And I'm like, oh, I don't even have to go very far. My back is killing me, and that's a small bag. But this guy that was homeless, his bag had so much, probably his clothes and odds and ends. I have no clue, what was in that bag. But this is how people they're going through life like this, is they're carrying all the weight, kind of carrying the weight of the world on their backs. It's all the stress about their family, their mom and dad or their kids, or, they're not in the present moment. They're carrying all this weight of all the worries and stress that's going on day to day. And it's, what? It's not good for your health. Like that guy, I'm like, he's got to have back issues and back pains. And there was a guy that I met before. It was another homeless guy. I wouldn't do it, but he had back issues because he's carrying all this weight, And this is what you got to learn, is to stay in the present moment and not to carry the weight of your family, their problems on your back. People will throw shit on you that I was guilty of this long time ago, telling people about my problems, and I didn't realize what I was doing long time ago. And I was just trying to figure out the problems and looking for help. But, and then it added stress to my brother that is no longer here. It would add stress to my family, my kids, they knew about a lot of my past. But, and this is what goes on in society, in the real world, is that, it is okay to talk to people about what you're going through. Like if you trust somebody, like I have somebody out there that I go to, but it's not, it's a balance flow. It's like, okay, I had a bad day. It's okay to have a bad day. but we got to be careful of what we're putting on other people in life and how much we're carrying with us. You might have a mom and dad that have all these health problems, and you might, and then they tell you all these things that are going on, and then it goes up here, but really it's something you're carrying in your own body and your own being. And we got to be careful of, like watching the news. Starlight doesn't watch the news. I can't stand watching the news. If it was on the radio, I'm like, I don't even want to hear it on my radio. I don't have to I don't have to watch the news. People will tell me what's going on in the news, is that watching the news too much, that is not good for your mind, your emotional, your spiritual well-being. It's not good for your mental well-being. It's not good for your emotional well-being, and this is how we are in life, is carrying, our other people's burdens. And even when you watch the news now, you hear a horrible story, like about other people and what they've experienced. That's why Starlight doesn't watch the movies anymore. Starlight was watching horrible stuff, and it got me thinking of horrible stuff that happened to me, because I was watching stuff that, Starlight's like, yeah, I know what that's like, and it wasn't helping me to stay in the present moment. No, it was putting me in the past. It was putting me back in my childhood, horrible memories in my childhood. It wasn't helping me to stay in the present moment. And then there's other things out there, like on the news, that will get you to fear about the future. Now now you're not, like, it's either you're fearing, like you're thinking about the things that happened in the past, or even family members and their burdens and their heartaches and all their problems, and then you put it on your back, like, the backpack. And now the news, they're telling you, different information to be like the war and all that stuff, is to put fear out there and get you stressed out, like what's going to happen to you, what is going to happen to your family, and now you got the stress of the future, that we're not even there, where we should be in the present moment, right here, right now. But that is not how most people live. So, that is why it is so important to work on yourself every day. And that's why I meditate. I meditate to let go of stuff, let go of things that no longer serve you, let go of people that are no longer serving you. If you're around people that are always putting their problems on you, and then they walk away, and and now you're like, you're worried about them, and you're worried about that person, well, that's more on your back. And I'll tell you, I have no clue how much I was carrying with me from my past. And I was in a fear mode all the time before I met my mentor, is always, being afraid. How am I going to afford, I was living paycheck to paycheck before I had my cleaning business. Even, for the longest time, starting my cleaning business is, it takes time to build up a business. And then I moved, and then I had to restart all over again, because there was no money where I was. It was a very poor area. Nobody had really no money to actually be able to afford to have a cleaner, in that town. So I ended up moving, and I had to start it all over again, all from scratch, and so that actually does take time to do that. So it took years for the income to finally come in. So, and that is what you got to realize, is that you don't want to live in fear. You got to let love guide you, not fear. And that is what I learned from my mentor, is you want to stay in the present moment, right here, right now. Stop worrying about your future. You can make plans. How do you want, it's good to, to have plans, like, I talk to people, and when I don't agree with what they're saying, it's like, bye, I gotta go. Starlight's running. I am running. I'm like, you know what? This conversation is going nowhere. You are a distraction in my life right now. I got things to do. I don't have time for that kind of conversation, when nothing that I was talking to about with this person, I agreed to anything that person was saying. So you don't really want people wasting your time and your energy out in this society and in this life. So you got to be mindful of the kind of people and the kind of company, like who you're spending time with, and stay in that present moment. Is that are the people that you're with, and this is why I had to let a lot of people go. They were always bringing up the past, bringing up the past, bringing up the past. They were living in the past. They were not in the present moment. They were either in the past bringing up shit that you know what? I already lived all that crap. Stop putting me back there. I don't want to go back there. I'm healing from all that stuff. It takes time to heal. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time. You would not have a clue. Some of you will. One person I know has a clue how long it takes to get healed. It's all kinds of stuff. And a lot of people think that, hey, I am who I am. I know who I am. And you know what? I thought I knew who I was too. But you know what? After my mentor taught me, wow, I cannot believe all the things that I need to get healed from past relationships. Things that has happened, things that have got me to be a different person. So we have to let go of the past and let go of people that are bringing up the past all the time and bringing you back to your worst nightmares. Hey, yeah, and it's like, I don't want to think about that. That's why I don't watch. If you're watching stuff on the news or on TV or on the internet or however you watch things, if it's always reminding you of a past, like, with relationships, not just women get raped, but men actually, there are cases that men actually get raped, or all kinds of horrible stuff. And it's horrible when these things happen, but you don't want to revisit that kind of shit by turning on Netflix like Starlight used to do and watch the worst kind of stuff. I was drawn into that stuff. That's all I knew. I lived that kind of stuff. I lived those nightmares. Even like cop shows. Starlight was really into that. But what was going on in those cop shows? It was women getting raped. It was little boys getting, it was horrible stuff. It wasn't helping me to stay in the present moment. It wasn't helping me to work on myself. It wasn't helping me to become my greatest version. It wasn't helping me to be happy. It was draining my energy. But this is what people crave. A lot of people crave this stuff. They crave the negative stuff, the things that are gonna, it's horrible. I heard like a long time ago that there was a serial killer thing, and a movie or something, a true story of a serial killer, and lots of people wanted to watch this shit. That's what Starlight was doing. I was really into serial killing, stuff, and that's not good. It's not healthy for you. So, if you did something, if you're feeling guilt from something that you did long time ago, you know what you can do to help yourself is to get right with those things. We all have something that we feel guilty about, but you know what? Get that alone time and, get alone with God and say, God, I am so sorry. I made the wrong choices. I did the wrong stuff. There's times that people did something horrible when they were younger. They never got caught. They never got arrested. Nobody ever knew about it. But guess what? It's up here. Even though they never got caught, they carry that guilt with them all the time. Certain things will trigger and they feel guilty. Oh my, I feel guilty. Somebody could bring up a certain topic and then it triggers that moment. So we got to let go of guilt. Things that happened yesterday, that's yesterday. If you got right with the people that you might have said something, you might have responded the wrong way, either get right with yourself, get right with those people, and don't, like today's a new day. Let go of that stuff. If it's out of your control, there's nothing that you can do about it. You gotta don't beat yourself up over something you did 10 years ago. And a lot of people are hurting in the world because that's exactly what they do. They feel guilty. It could have been like I knew a guy. I know a lot of people in this situation. They weren't there for their kids when they were growing up, and it could be a guy or a girl, but mainly I've met men that were not there. And I do know somebody out there that was a mom. Was she there for her kids? No. She neglected her kids. Where was she, Starlight? Well, this mother was too busy. She let everybody else babysit their kids and let the wrong people, watch her kids. She went out. She was a social butterfly, going out and helping other people, going out and doing this for that person, going out and doing that for that person. Hey, it's great. Going out to the bar scene at night, going out and, and leaving the kids with people that were not safe. So those kids got neglected. Those kids went through hell because their mother wasn't there. She was out there doing other things. So, you've got to be really careful about that out in life. There's people that feel guilty because they weren't there, for their children. Some people, they don't even know what guilt is. They never felt guilty about anything. They never felt guilty about not being there for their kids. In their eyes, some people out there, some mothers out there, they believe they were the greatest mother, but they weren't there for their kids. So there's people holding guilt. They could have gone to drugs and alcohol and, ruined their whole life, didn't even get to enjoy life, and then, their families, their kids suffer through that because they weren't even there. And that's how a lot of abuse happens, is because of neglect. The parents were not there to protect their children from harmful people. And so there's a lot of people that feel guilty, but then they keep on drinking. They keep on doing drugs, like a Band-Aid. It's not fixing the problem. They never got right with it. There's a person that actually passed away. He never got to see his kids at the end of his life, and he ended up passing away because he didn't love himself. And so you got to let go of the guilt that you've been holding. Get right, let it go. You got to let it go. You can't hold that on any longer. You got to let it go. Because if you got right with the people, or you ask God to forgive you for those things, say, I did something, I got away with it, nobody knew what I did. There's a lot of people, they are living, some people, they don't even believe there's a God, because they're like, thunder and lightning hasn't came down from the sky. But guess what? They might think that they got away with it, but they're dealing with it every day. They feel guilty about what they did. So they didn't get away with it. They're dealing with it all the time. If they just ask God, please, I'm so sorry. I fudged up. I messed up. I wasn't thinking. And now I have to, every day, relive that thing that I did over and over again. So even though, they didn't get killed, nobody shot them for what they did, or they didn't get in jail, they are living with it every day. So let go of your past, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Sorry, my Starlight's back here. It doesn't happen overnight about letting go of the past, but you gotta, if those people are still around, you know what? You don't have to do this, but if you did something horrible and you can't seem to go on in life, sometimes we do have to get right with those people. They need to hear that, Anytime I feel guilty about anything I've done, there's times that Starlight, everything's out of her control, and I still say, I'm sorry. But I gotta let that go. If I told that person, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and I have to forgive myself, I gotta tell that person, forgive myself, and then I gotta let it go. Starlight had a horrible time with this her whole life, of feeling guilty. And when I went to church, wow, did they ever make me feel guilty. I'll tell you, not all churches do this, but man, there's some churches, they will rub it in your face. They will make you feel guilty. They will make you feel like you're the worst person in the world. They will tell you, this is what Starlight went through. You deserve to go to hell. Because what our statement was in that church is, hey, how you doing? And our comment was, better than what I deserve. And so that pastor at that church was more like, you deserve hell. You don't really deserve to live. You don't deserve to have you don't deserve anything. You deserve to have pain and torment all the time. So don't let people like that affect you in your life. Is you got to let that stuff go. Forgive those. I have forgave that pastor. I have to forgive that pastor, because in the Bible it says, forgive them for they know not what they do. And who knows how that person was brought up, He had to get brought up in a certain way to create the monster that came out of that, And he's got to realize that he's got to get right, with his family and forgive his family if that's what happened, And those are lessons in our lives. Are you going to repeat the same shit that people did to you? Are you going to repeat the same things that your family did that was wrong? No, we got a choice. Our choice is to, no, I'm not going to repeat that. We all learn something from our families, whether it's good or bad. Sometimes we're learning more bad from our family than what's good. So take the things that you learned that was not good for you and say, no, I don't have to repeat that cycle. We're tested all the time. You got to let go of the past and be careful. Even music will bring back the past. There's certain songs. I'm like, man, there are certain songs, if I hear it on the radio, I'm like, I know what I did with that song. Starlight, what were you doing? None of your business. I'm not telling you what I was doing, but it was a horrible thing that happened just because of a song. Anytime I hear that song, I'm like, a horrible thing happened because of that song was playing. So you got to be careful. There's so many different things that can pull you back, holidays and all this stuff. So always, it's going to come up, but let it go. Let it go. You're going to always have something. Something's always going to trigger you. You know what? That was a lesson. I'm not going to sit here and think about that all day long. I'm going to let that go, and, there's times that those things come up in our life so we can get right with it. Hey, God, I thought I got right with you about everything, but wow, I forgot all about that one. Shit, man, I haven't thought about that person and what I did to that person or what I said or how wow, I forgot all about. That was something buried, and now God brought it up, for me to actually deal with it now. So it's best to deal with it now and, ask God to forgive you. But if possible, go and tell those people that you're sorry for what you've done and ask God to forgive you and let it go. I love you so much. So you could take that bag off. You don't have to carry all that weight with you every day, all that burdens, Be careful who you have in your circle. Be careful who you have. If they're always bringing up the past in your face, and bringing up stuff when you were a child, when, they know you went through hell, and they just keep on bringing it up and, forgive them for they know not what they do, is that you got to let it go. You might have to let those people go. If they're always constantly bringing up the past and you're trying to let it go, you might have to let them go. I love you so much. This is Starlight. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. And you can share my videos with your family or friends. And I have an ant crawling on my phone. So an ant. And I'm trying to think, a bee. I think that's a bee. So yeah, you could share my videos with an ant and a bee. Plus, you can check out my playlist, and you can find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook and as Kathy with a K, Dingman Starlight. I love you all. Please, let go of the past. Don't be afraid of the future. Stay in the now, stay in the present moment, and you'll feel a whole lot better. I am telling you, thanks to my mentor, I feel a whole lot better now. Now, when shit happens, I'm like, nope, you know what? Today's a new day. I already dealt with that shit yesterday. I'm not going to bring it in today. Today's a new page, a new slate. Just like a fresh, brand new relationship when you broke up with somebody and you took time to heal, and then you start a new relationship. It's a nice, clean slate. You don't have all that toxic energy from other people that you dated and all that stuff, because it's all nice and clean and ready for, a new beginning in that relationship. So I love you so much. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight. Love, light, and peace.